Hello, it is day 18 already of our Little by Little May Art Challenge. And today we are going to paint some whimsical houses. And I'm starting with a light pencil sketch for these, unlike our painting from yesterday, in which I just went straight in with the paint. But I think this one's helpful to have a little bit of a sketch to start off with. And this painting is inspired by another person on YouTube called Coloring Introvert, and I will link that channel in the description. I checked the channel today, and sadly, they haven't posted for like 4 months. So I hope everything's okay over there. But I don't think you will be disappointed if you check out the channel. Okay, back to my little sketch here. You can see I'm trying to be wonky and just trying not to overthink it too much, but I will tell you, you can see me hesitating here and there, like, should I put the door centered or what shape should my window be? So I would suggest maybe just do a super rough thumbnail sketch on a scrap piece of paper first, just to kind of get a general idea of your layout. It's something I wish I would have done, but honestly, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm wondering if I only wish I would have done that because I'm doing a video of it. Normally, it doesn't matter if I'm just sitting here and creating just for myself, but when creating a video, it just kind of feels like awkward hesitation. But like right now, it's happening. Where should I put the door? I don't know. Maybe right here. Wait, I think I'll go over here. Okay, you get the idea. And you can see here that I'm not worrying about perfect proportions by any means or straight lines. And that's kind of the charm of these whimsical, wonky houses. They're supposed to feel playful and a little bit off kilter. Some are short and stout, and others are tall and leaning, and you can have them wavy or whatever you'd like. So, yeah, if you're not doing a video, just don't feel like you have to rush through this like I'm kind of feeling, putting the pressure on myself. Even if it's just loose and fun, you're designing something and it's okay to pause and think and hopefully just have fun. Okay, I'm using a size 2 round brush here, and I've just got some water on my brush. I do have a teeny bit of color on there just so you can see where my water is going, and I'm avoiding the window. So I'm just painting right outside, and I'm doing this, especially this taller one, in sections so that my water doesn't dry out too fast because I want to paint wet on wet for a lot of this. And I'm bringing in the color Violet from my Paul Rubens set, and I will link my supplies in the description if you'd like. But the violet I just think is so fun and whimsical and vibrant and yeah, just super fun. So just laying that in there and kind of letting it flow. And I will tell you, pretty soon I kind of lose track of what colors I'm using because I did use a lot of stuff that I had already in my palette that was already mixed. And so I'm just going to kind of tell you some general things. But right now I'm adding some more water, kind of moving down into the next section and also tapping into that purple a little bit, the violet, and bringing that down. And we're just going to let our colors blend and flow. And I'm adding some blue here. You know, be creative with your colors. I'm using somewhat of a limited color palette because I just think that looks nice and it just kind of ties everything together. And I'm moving some of that blue down here now and got mostly water on my brush, but a little bit of color as well. And if you're painting along with me, don't be afraid to just let the colors bleed into each other. That's part of the fun of this style. It keeps it lively and whimsical, even with just these simple subjects like houses. Now, something important to keep in mind is that not all colors play nicely together. You want to make sure that you're choosing colors that will blend well. Otherwise, you can end up with a muddy or dull look, especially if you're mixing together complementary colors. And when I say complementary colors, I'm talking about like if you picture a color wheel and colors that sit opposite each other on the color wheel are complementary. So red and green, blue and orange, yellow and purple. And you might be wondering, why are they called complementary if they don't work well together? Well, they work well together in the sense that they look good next to each other. So, like blue and orange or yellow and purple, they look great next to each other, but mixing them together, you're going to make kind of a muddy brown or gray. And in some instances, we are going for that look, but for a light and whimsical painting like this, it's not usually what we want. So if you've ever mixed together red and green and ended up with something that was just kind of, yeah, now you know why. So it's just something to be aware of when you're picking your colors. Choose a few that blend into pretty new shades rather than muddy ones. And that will make a big difference when you're doing the wet on wet technique. And if you're not sure what they're going to look like, just practice on a scrap piece of watercolor paper. And I was babbling so much I wasn't telling you what I was doing, but just tapping in the blue and the purple and the purple and the blue. And now I've let that completely dry, and I'm coming in to work on the second house with just a wet brush. Again, a little bit of color on there, but barely. And with what I'm about to do, you might think I'm contradicting myself because it looks like, I do have a little bit of purple on my brush and I'm about to drop in some yellow, and I just told you not to do that. But this is such a light wash of purple that it's not even barely going to affect my yellow. So you can see I've got a nice vibrant yellow that I'm bringing in. And again, the blue and the purple on that first house are completely dry. If it wasn't completely dry, that yellow is just going to run together with those and it would just be quite a mess. And now I've got some orange on my brush and just going to let the orange and the yellow blend together nicely. Now, I don't want you to worry about perfection when we're coming up against that first house. It doesn't have to be a straight line because this is a line and wash painting. And so we are going to come in with our pens at the end and just add some extra wonk and take care of any maybe white spaces that are showing. White spaces are fun though too, so just go with it and have fun. All right, now I'm moving on to our third house. Again, you can see there's a pattern here. I'm just got water on my brush, teensy weensy bit of color, and we're just gonna get that nice wash of water and a little bit of color on our house, avoiding the windows, avoiding the door, because here's the deal. Your paint is going to follow wherever the water is, okay? So if you go right up next to, you can see how I'm going right up next to the roof line, which I did not put water in, and it's just, it won't go into that. Now, if I put my brush on the roof, it's going to go into that, but generally speaking, it's going to just stay right where you place the water. So that's why we're avoiding those elements of the house because we're going to be doing those different colors. And I'm just dabbing in my color, and I'm going to do varying shades of this kind of blue green that was on my palette, and I also mixed in some more blues and greens into it. So that's why I'm not telling you the colors because I don't really know all the colors that are in there. I like to use what's in my palette if I can. And sometimes, eventually I end up cleaning it all out and starting over, but I really just try not to waste my paint. If you're painting along, remember there's no need to keep up with me or to go as slowly as I am, depending on your speed. Just go at your own pace. You can pause the video, you can speed me up to 2x, you can slow me down, whatever you might need to help you in your painting. But you can see how each of these houses kind of has their own little personality. I love them. I think this is so cheerful. I had a friend stop by tonight and I showed her this painting and she said, "Oh, that reminds me of the houses we stayed in Florida, the beach houses." I was like, "Oh, that's fun." And just tapping in some more colors there. And this is where my limited palette comes in. So I'm using that same color from that house on the left, and I'm using that for the door in our middle house. And this is where something very frustrating happens. My phone stopped recording, but I'm putting in dark on this left side of the house, and then I'm just cleaning my brush off, and I have water on it, and I'm painting it in there, and that's where my camera stopped. But I painted the water in there, placed it in there, and then just went over to touch the darker side of the door. And then I did the other two doors the same way, and I'm very sorry. But I also waited till way too late in the day to do this, so I didn't have time to redo it. So just play with your doors and different colors and shades. And for the windows, I'm just using a very light wash of I started with that same color of the house and just diluted it quite a bit. And then for the middle house, I did a different color of blue. I believe this, I don't know, I'm not even going to guess what color of blue that is, but just grab a color of blue that you like, water it down quite a bit, just to kind of give our windows a little bit of color in them. And if you're doing a nighttime scene, obviously you could do, kind of a yellowish orange. Again, not being too careful here because we're going to come in with our pens later and just kind of fix, so to speak, any little edges that we might want a little bit crisper, or you'll see. My pens don't tend to make things crisper. They tend to make things more wobbly and scribbly. But we all have our own styles, don't we? All right, for the roof on that left house, I just did a darker variation of the house, and then now I'm putting a black roof on our middle house to kind of get a nice pop of contrast there. And while I've got the black on my brush, going to put that on, put my doorknobs in there and tweak my roof just a tad. Just play with it. Okay, and now we will paint in the final roof, which is an even more saturated color of the house on the left, kind of a blue-green, and I just thought that would be a nice complement to our yellow house, yellow and orange house. And then we're going to let this completely dry, and now it's time for my favorite part, adding the Sharpie pen details. This is where everything really starts to pop, and I'm doing regular speed here on this first house to show you, but I am going to speed it up when I get to the other houses just to kind of try to keep the video shorter. Again, you can slow it down if you want, you can pause it, whatever you'd like, but I just kind of want to show you how I'm just scribbling in here on that house, and now I will go ahead and speed it up for you. I've gotten feedback that a lot of people like it when I speed up, especially parts like this where I'm really just outlining and scribbling. I'm not really drawing, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think this needs instruction. It's just other than scribble and try not to be too precious about it. I love it. I love how it's just coming to life. And now I've slowed it down again just to show you, putting some little scribbly lines of grass, avoiding the doorways just to kind of maybe give an indication of a path that's leading to each of the doors. And yeah, I think that looks good. And now, time for our white gel pen. This is a Jelly Roll size 8, and you can see I am just scribbling in. And this maybe looks like there's no rhyme or reason, because there isn't, but I'm not really doing highlights like, oh, I think the light would hit here. Really, at this point, I'm just doing it for the whimsical effect and trying to remind myself not to go overboard here. But do I always listen? No. No, I do not. And of course, this gel pen is also totally optional, but it's such an easy way to add contrast and make things feel more finished, especially if some of the areas might have gotten a little too dark with the paint. Okay, stepping away from the gel pen, signing my art, and calling it a day. I hope you have fun with this. And thanks so much for spending this time with me today. Until next time, happy painting, and just keep making art that makes you smile. Join me tomorrow for day 19.